On today's Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, we're going to dive into if the Sacramento Kings are back.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night, tipping off now.
Let's get it going on Locked On NBA Game Night on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Rylan Stiles, that's Gavin, Schall. We are Saturday Night Duo taking you through everything that's happened in the NBA on this Saturday night. We're going to recap every single game for you with the help of our local experts. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, recapping the NBA and NBA Game Night, NBA Daily, taking you through the bigger pictures of life in the NBA. Gavin, how you feeling now 2 weeks into the NBA season?
It's been a lot of fun. My main takeaway, and look, this is a cliched thing to say. I feel like every reporter says this at some point each year for the last 5 years. It just feels like there's more talent in the NBA than there ever has been. Like, I spent all summer talking up the Knicks as title contenders. I'm still confident that they're a great team, but just being focused on them and watching even Eastern Conference teams that came into the season lightly regarded, like the Bulls, like the Heat. It is a freaking war, night in, night out. Like, the younger players, the jumps they're making from season to season now, it's just incredible. Because they're guys you never heard. Like, look at Quentin Jackson tonight, what he did for the Pacers. They're guys that the average fan has never heard of, and they're making incredible game-winning type plays. It's so much fun.
It is so much fun, and this game was fun in the afternoon. Let's start with the Kings and the Bucks. The Kings get a 135-133 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, in a losing effort, had 26 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, and a block. He shot 61% from the floor, 1 for 1 from three, and 9 for 14 from the free throw line. But the big story for me, Gavin, in this game, are the Kings back? Because Demonte Sabonis, who has been not good this season, he ends up with 24 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 61% shooting from the floor. Then you throw in DeMar DeRozan's 29 points on 52% shooting. Then you throw in Zach Levine's 31 points on 47% shooting. And oh yeah, Dennis Schroeder got you 24 points on 61% shooting. Like, this Kings team has not been anything to uphold for the first half of the season, but this was a good win for them. You got to celebrate them as they come. And do you at all feel any connection still to this weird trio in Sacramento possibly making a push for the play-in?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I'll give you this. They're going to make a push for entertaining. And I'm stealing this from our guy, Matt George, host of Locked On Kings. And he opened his podcast tonight talking about this. What if Sacramento just embraces this identity of being all in on offense? Obviously, it was only 4 years ago they set the NBA single season record for offensive rating. Completely different team. Sabonis is really the only piece of DNA they still have left from that group. And yet I watched this team play, Rylan, and they closed the game with this crazy lineup of Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, Zach Levine, DeMar DeRozan, Demonte Sabonis, right outside of Sabonis, almost like this island of misfit toys, guys that other teams didn't want or couldn't make fit, or were just very specific types of players. All 5 of them, to some extent or another, seemingly need the ball in their hands. And give some credit to Doug Christie, because for stretches in this game, he made it all work. And you just see how dynamic it could be. They ran at one point in the third quarter, a guard-to-guard pick and roll, Schroeder to Russ. Schroeder hits Russ on the short roll, and then Russ just sprays it out to Zach Levine, one of the best shooters on planet Earth, for a 3. They had a similar action with Schroeder and DeRozan where they got a layup. You see Levine coming off dribble handoffs to Sabonis, and even at 30 years old, which is crazy. I looked it up today. I feel like Zach Levine is eternally 21 years old, just because he still has that athleticism. He still has real pop coming off a dribble handoff, turning the corner, getting all the way downhill. I love the way Sabonis battled down the stretch of this game. I always think back to the Eastern Conference wars between him and Julius Randle and him and Giannis. It was the exact same vibes, insane physicality. You could tell Giannis was pissed. He wanted to dunk on him at the end of the game so badly, but Sabonis held up. Some big offensive rebounds late. Russ just he obviously throughout his career, he's been killed for making some losing plays. I don't think he gets enough credit for the winning plays he makes over the course of his rebounds. Just tipped rebounds, connector consistently on this team, making good decisions. He took a real jump in that in Denver last year, just embracing being an elite role player, still has that in spades. It's a super fun team. And I think, again, if they just commit to saying, hey, we're going to try to score 125 points every game, they go from like a team that I'm kind of queasy about watching to must-watch TV for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's why I think that the Kings can be back. I think that this could be a game that sparks them into that direction that Matt George is talking about. That, you know what, listen, I don't know that they could even make the play-in. I really don't. I think that that'd still be a bit of a high percentile outcome for the season for Sacramento. But man, they can be a lot of fun if they just lean all in on this offense. And I honestly think that that's the best of both worlds, not just entertainment, not just like for content, but also if you do view yourself as a postseason team, your only pathway to get there is by leaning all in on your offense and just winning these shootouts and winning these amazing games where you have all these guys scoring 25 plus points. And it's just awesome. And credit to Russell Westbrook. Everything that you mentioned, it was laid the foundation teams passed with him like with Denver. I mean, the Aaron Gordon game winner set up by Russell Westbrook. Like he gets a lot of hate, but he also has some moments where it really helps teams win. You did mention, speaking of another team in last year's playoffs, the Indiana Pacers, you did mention Quentin Jackson at the top of the show. Isaiah Jackson also had double figures for the Indiana Pacers as they snapped their 5-game losing streak, and they were able to beat the Golden State Warriors, 109 for the Warriors, 114 for Indiana. You saw with the Warriors, they had Steph Curry go for 24 points. Jimmy Butler went for 20 points himself. Jonathan Kuminga had 17 in that starting lineup, and Podziemski had 16. But that was the extent of the Golden State scores tonight against this Indiana team, which was shorthanded. What did you make of Indiana kind of gutting out their first win? And also, in addition to that, where are you at with Indiana just as a team trying to find their way through this already injury-riddled season?
Yeah, just incredibly gutty win. They close it on a 21-5 run. I mean, Quentin Jackson, what an incredible story. Scores 12 of his 25 points in the fourth quarter. This is a guy, went to Texas A&M for 3 seasons, has just been battling to stick around on NBA rosters, right? The kind of guys we never glorify on these shows, normally go unmentioned. I said it earlier, but casual fans like outside of Indiana do not know who they are. He's playing because like you go back to that series against your Thunder, Rylan, 5 of their top 7 are not in action right now. Like we just got the news, like this team is cursed. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton out for the season. Obi Toppin now going to miss 3 months with a stress fracture in his right foot. Benedict Mathurin out with a foot injury. Andrew Nembhard, a left shoulder strain. TJ McConnell, I think close to coming back, but still out with a left hamstring strain. This entire team is dead to rights. And what do they do against a team that's playing almost as well as anyone in the NBA to start the season in the Golden State Warriors? They leverage every inch of gravity Pascal Siakam has. Aaron Nesmith has one of the best games of his career with 31 points. And like, just that DNA that Rick Carlisle imbued in this group that made them so special, that allowed them to push the Thunder to the brink. You see that in these end of game situations where Pascal Siakam, all these other guys are out, right? He has every right to take 38 shots and make 11 of them. And if you're Tony East on Locked On Pacers, you have to tip your cap and say, hey, Pascal, take 1,000,000 shots next game, right? No one else is playing. And instead he's getting the ball, getting to his spot, draws gap help, gets off the ball, and then gets it back and hits a big 3. That was the shot that I think tied it up at 107 as this one was winding down. And then they close it out with that Quentin Jackson going one-on-one with Draymond Green, gets to his spot, pulls up on 1 foot, gets the banker. Like he like just has this great decel change of pace to his game, super crafty. It was just a really, really gutty showing. This team has great DNA. As far as where I'm at, big picture, Rylan, I think I don't want to say this is a blessing in disguise because this was a team perfectly capable of coming out and winning the East and winning an NBA championship this year if they were healthy. But if you get the opportunity with all these injuries to genuinely really tank, and I almost doubt they can do that just because they're so competitive. And when they start to get some of these guys back, I could still see them making a belated run at being a playoff team despite the 0-5 start. But if there's any world where they can end up with a top 5 pick in what is supposed to be one of the most loaded top 5s we've seen in the last 15 years in NBA drafts, that could extend their title window even further. That could more than make up for losing Miles Turner. So if I were them, I would lean that direction. I just don't think that that's in Rick Carlisle to do. They're going to play the right way. They're going to scrap out wins when they get healthy. They're going to be like just a pain to play on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, I still think that Indiana, I think there's kind of two outcomes to this is like one, what would be like the smartest business decision and like long-term roster view decision, I think would be to prioritize draft positioning. But what will be reality for Indiana, as well coached as they are, with as many talented players as they still have, even without Miles Turner, who's in Milwaukee, and of course the injuries that they're dealing with, but most importantly, their head coach, like they're going to be able to find wins against this Eastern Conference and make the postseason again. And that's also very cool to navigate through this adversity and be able to do that. Coming up, let's talk about Orlando, and they're able to beat down Washington. Let's talk Dallas and Detroit. Let's talk Minnesota and Charlotte, and the Rockets routing the Celtics. But first, let's say right now, but our friends over at Robinhood, folks, go check out Robinhood today because your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win at Robinhood, not just on game day, but every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your personal PR, beating it again, channeling that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio management team of experts that they have for you at Robinhood. You expect more from yourself, so start expecting more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Also want to tell you right now, my good friends over at DoorDash, folks. DoorDash is awesome because they are helping you out big time to be in your bag this season. The NBA season is heating up. DoorDash is there for you to keep fans in their bag all year long, whether you're watching the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, your favorite team. DoorDash makes every game even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something they call the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, that DoorDash drops 50% off your next order with Dash Pass the next day. You're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you actually want. Go check it out today because DoorDash has you covered for late night highlights, watch parties if you want to have them, and cater in some food, double overtime fuel ups, whatever you need from DoorDash, they have it for you. So next time someone goes off for 50, here's what you do. Use the promo code NBA50. The next day, you get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 for the day after a 50-point game with the promo code. Terms and conditions apply. Again, no purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles, Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin Schall, Locked On Knicks. Let's head out to Locked On Magic. Philip Rossman Reich has you covered for this Magic Wizards game.
This is Philip Rossman Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic defeat the Washington Wizards 125-94, a game where their starters didn't have to play much in the fourth quarter. They're up by as much as 30 points, but the real lesson of this game is how the Magic have continued to kind of bring themselves together ever since that 1-4 start. Obviously, there's a lot of soul searching on that flight from Detroit to Charlotte as they tried to figure out how to get themselves out of a 4-game losing streak. But ever since then, and yes, it is just Charlotte and Washington, but generally even throughout this road trip, even those losses to Philadelphia and Detroit, the Magic have been moving the ball very effectively on offense. And the key to this is really about how the team is getting into the paint and living in the paint. Paolo Banchero had 28 points. He had 25 at the half, had 11 rebounds, was moving the ball, using his gravity to get people around him and kicking it back out to shooters. And the Magic are making some shots, and if they're not making those shots, they're driving aggressively to the basket. They're getting out in transition a lot more. They're using their defense to create some offense. No offense to our friends at Locked On Wizards, but it is just the Washington Wizards, and the Magic needed 2 confidence-boosting wins that come when you're playing teams that aren't expected to be very much in the league this year. But the Magic are starting to show the signs of the team that everybody believed they could be at the beginning of the season. You'll take the wins where you can get them. The Magic can finish a winning road trip in Atlanta on Tuesday.
You will take the wins where you can get them, even if it is just Washington and just Charlotte. Orlando, I thought today played excellent defensively, and that was like the bizarro world start for them, where it was like, is their defense going to actually be that good this year? Like we've all been hyping up Orlando and hyping up this team as a squad that can be top 4 in the East, and then their defense was not all there in that messy start that Philip talked about. It was there tonight. Again, just Washington, but you'd much rather this than we've seen teams in the past, not going to name names, but Denver last year got swept by Washington. Like you still got to take care of these teams. And the Orlando Magic did that. Credit to them in this win. Paulo played really well, as Philip said, with 28 points to his name. Franz Wagner had 25 points in this game. Goga had 15 off the bench. How about that? That's a fun player. And now let's talk about another fun player with the Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Dante DiVincenzo was so fun to watch tonight, and you are all too familiar with him in this Timberwolves 122-105 win over the Charlotte Hornets. I thought Dante DiVincenzo just dictated the terms of conditions for the Charlotte defense at times with his ability to get his shots off, have 18 points in this game. He could have stayed to be a little bit more efficient, but a lot was on his plate. So let's be fair to Dante in this case. But I thought that his shot was just so smooth, and you've kind of been around him whenever he gets in these scoring zones.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's really in a lot of ways the swing piece for this Minnesota team that is still trying to figure out like who is going to be their 5th starter come playoff time. And I don't know if that guy is on the team yet. Like ideally have a 28-year-old Mike Conley would be the perfect 5th starter. Dante kind of would be, but he's just not a true point guard. And like when Anthony Edwards is not playing, especially when you play a team like the Hornets that might not be paying the most attention to the scouting report on him, like he's gonna have opportunities to go off. Like when he can get into a rhythm, when he's empowered. And like last season, it took him a long time to find his shot. Remember, like he was having close to the worst shooting season like of his career through 5 months last season, then finally started figuring it out post All-Star break and into the playoffs. But I think these non-Ant games are really important for him. That being said, like you're going to have Anthony Edwards on the floor. You're going to have Julius Randle on the floor. You're going to have Jaden McDaniels on the floor. And it might even be like 4th and 5th starters. Like, is it Naz Reid? Is it a somewhat declining Rudy Gobert, even though he had a really good game in this one? What Minnesota fans do know and can feel confident about is that Julius Randle is playing the best basketball of his life. As someone who's been doing Locked On Knicks, Rylan, like since Julius joined the team in 2019, I feel like I've said that phrase maybe like 100 times over the last couple of years, but it feels like he just always finds something else to add to his game. Even though he's made multiple All-NBAs, rosters have never been constructed around him. He's never gotten a ton of respect in terms of contract negotiations. I think even the years where he's made all-star teams and he's made all-NBA teams, you listen to like the lead talking heads around the NBA, and they say, all right, but Julius Randle isn't really one of the elite players in the NBA. Like I think he's as disrespected as any star in this league, and I include myself in that. I've said a lot of mean things about Julius Randle over the year, but look at the start he's gotten off to this season. 27 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists per game, 56% from the field, 47% from 3, 83% from the line, taking 6 threes a game. He's playing as well on the offensive end of the floor as about anyone outside of like the Lukas and Sheas of the world. Like he has just been extraordinary. He's carried an enormous load since Anthony Edwards went down, and he's just continued to be hyper efficient. And like, I don't know if he gets the recognition of being like a group 3 level scorer, because people see him and they see like a grinder and a bulldozer, and he still has that in his game, but he can also get to that floater. He can get to like a Carmelo Anthony, right? Like 2 jabs into like an elbow jumper. I mentioned it, but he's shooting the 3 as well as he ever has. And it's still like a little awkward between him and Ant. I don't think those two are a natural pairing, but they're both so good they can make it work. And then the swing pieces become the tertiary guys for Minnesota, and Jaden McDaniels, who just continues to make leaps, like doing the star stuff at time when he's on the ball, and also doing the role player stuff, right? Operating out of the short roll, setting Rudy Gobert up for easy dunks. Speaking of Rudy, like this was pretty clearly his best game of the season. Like a couple of game-changing defensive stops on LaMelo Ball that got Minnesota out in transition when they made that big 34-16 run to end the third quarter. That got them going. And it's still finding the right blend. It's finding the right 5 guys. As you know, they couldn't do that against your Thunder, but there's just a lot of encouraging signs in this one for Minnesota. It was a make-right win, their first since Ant went down.
Yeah, big-time win to bounce back for Minnesota. Coming up, let's talk about a couple other big wins to end the night. But first, I want to say right now, but your friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because the NBA is back, folks, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, especially like today, Sunday, you might be listening to this, drinking your cup of coffee, not realizing there's a 2:30 game today. Go check over at FanDuel. Even if the game's already started, place your live bet today, and you can ensure that you are there if someone's going off and you want to get in on that early, or if it's a late fourth quarter comeback, you can see it happening. You can see the run start to build. Go to FanDuel right now. Plus, you can combine those live bets into the same game parlay. It keeps the action more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head on over right now to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers get that $300 if your first $5 bet hits. And with this NBA season heating up, you can go check out the Thunder and Pelicans 2:30 today. Thunder 13-point favorites over New Orleans as New Orleans tries to get their first one of the year. Go check it out today at FanDuel.com. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Speaking of your teams every day, let's head over to one of our other experts, Nick Angstad of Locked On Mavericks, as he recaps this Mavericks loss to Detroit.
Yes, right? D'Angelo Russell gives, D'Angelo Russell takes, but the Dallas Mavericks do the exact same thing. The Mavs in this game against the Pistons had some very clearly obvious things they needed to fix and can fix going forward. When the Mavs don't turn the ball over, they can actually score and look like an NBA basketball team. That's what they did in the first three quarters against this Pistons team. But then in the fourth quarter, 7 turnovers, including 3 awful ones from D'Angelo Russell, 2 from Brandon Williams, and 2 from PJ Washington. They were really costly live ball turnovers. That hurt them down the stretch. The Mavs also got destroyed in the paint. 72 points in the paint for the Pistons. Jalen Duren, 33 of those, and just absolutely crushed the Mavericks. They did get Daniel Gafford back for the first game of the season for him. 7 points, 4 boards, 3 assists. Only played 17 minutes because Jason Kidd said he was going to be on a minutes restriction, but it was good to see him back, even though he was huffing and puffing in that 7,000 feet elevation there in Mexico City. D'Angelo Russell, though, 31 points, kept the Mavs absolutely connected, 7 of 13 from 3. That was huge for them. But then on the other end, he just gives it right back a lot of the time. And that's when Jason Kidd decided to double Cade Cunningham at the top of the key. And he just picked them apart with his passing. 18 assists for Cade, including a ton in that 17-4 run to end the game for the Pistons. Cooper Flagg, 16 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. Only 3 of 14 from the field. He struggled in this one to find like where he was supposed to be, where his rhythm was going to come from, where his shots were going to come from, but he found a way to impact the game, including 2 really good drives late to get fouled. He went 8 of 8 from the free throw line, hit all of them at the end of the game, obviously. And so that was pretty big for Cooper Flagg. He continues to develop, continues to figure it out, continues to figure out not only his place in the NBA, but in this offense. And the Mavs' problems are pretty obvious.
You know, Gavin, I walked away from this game not feeling like, oh, the Mavericks are really bad. Like, the Mavericks are just terrible. And obviously, as Nick lays out, the Mavericks had a lot of their own things to clean up in this game, a big reason why they lost. But I walked away from this game saying, Detroit made Dallas really bad down the stretch of this one. Like, Detroit is the force that made Dallas make these mistakes, make these turnovers, just dominate them in the paint on both sides of the floor, using their size to impose their will. The playmaking of Cade that just really stood out in general for his game, but in contrast to what Dallas's playmakers are on the other end, like that's a big deal. But I came away from this game not even so much as just like dunking on the Mavs of being like having a bad night, but just realizing that the Pistons made them have a bad night, and the Pistons have the formula and have the rotation to force other teams consistently into having bad nights because of their size, because of Cade Cunningham's ability. I just love what they do inside on both ends. And I think that kind of lends itself to having nights like this where it was a really nip and tuck game for the most part in the first 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, they were able to go on this run and put this game away and put it on ice. The Pistons have this feeling of inevitability almost of that, at some point they're going to generate stops, and they're going to generate stops in bunches. It might come in the first quarter or the fourth quarter or the second quarter or the third quarter, but it's going to happen, and they're going to get out in transition, and they're going to be able to grow some separation. And can you limit the damage enough to stave off Detroit? That's a very tough task, and Dallas couldn't do it tonight.
Yeah, to your point, to the idea of them just being inevitable, they outscore the Mavs in this game 72-26 in the paint. I can't remember a game that came down to the final 2 minutes where the margin was that wide. Like it was just a dominant effort, and it was led by two guys, Jalen Duren, who had a career-high 33 points in this one, and Cade Cunningham, who Terry Gannon on the Peacock broadcast, I think he said that Cade was the first player in NBA history to hit 21, 18, and 6 in a game. That didn't sound right. Maybe he meant this season. I don't know if I misheard that, but that's crazy. Cade over his last 2 games now, 28 assists and 1 turnover. And he Rylan, on this pod last year, I was the one making the argument that he should have been like 4th for MVP. I'm still willing to make the case that outside of Nikola Jokic, team would be hurt by losing them more. Like this team would crumble without Cade. So much runs through his gravity, his ability to finish, and just his willingness to get off the ball. And as a Knicks guy, I was getting war flashbacks watching Cade just rip through Detroit in those final 4 minutes, right? Like he checks back in. Pistons, I think, were up or Mavs were up 106-105. He immediately gets downhill to get free throws. Pistons up 107-106. Then a pocket pass to Duren for a big jam. Then using a screen, gets a running banker. And then the Mavs are like, you know what? Screw this. Someone else is going to have to beat us. But lucky for Detroit, they have Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren, who are both so incredibly malleable in that they can be like S-tier rim runners, to use a term of the youth, right? Like they're incredible lob threats, but they're also so good in the short roll, catching it around the free throw line, and then finding whichever one of the two is not involved in that short roll for a dunk or for a little pocket pass, like either like a lob or a pocket pass for a dunk. And they were able to do that. Like they blitzed him, and Asar hits Asar at the free throw line. Asar drives in and gets a layup. He puts the cherry on top, hit a left wing 3 to make it 122, 110. I can't remember if I mentioned it, 28 assists, 1 turnover over his last 2 games. The formula of those 3 guys plus 2 shooters is just, it's intimidating defensively, and it's very, very hard to deal with on the offensive end of the floor. It just feels like a team that in a very throwback way is built to play basketball in April, May, and June. They still have to get like a little higher end talent in terms of their role players, in terms of their tertiary guys. You're still waiting for Asar Thompson to take that jump from elite role guy to elite guy, period. But if this type of game from Duren is anything, where the Peacock, like indicative of anything going forward with the Peacock broadcasters, we're comparing him to a young Amari Stoudemire. I just think Detroit should be so excited about the rest of the season. And I'm excited to see them. Like maybe some of it was just a Mavs team that obviously doesn't have great guard play, but the way they got out in transition just over and over again, I'd love to see them play that way all the time.
Yeah, and speaking of exciting for Detroit, I mean, we've been talking ad nauseum, leading into this season of just trying to figure out new ways to preview the season. And every new way that we found to preview the season, we always ended up in the same spot of like, okay, it's Cleveland, it's New York, and then it's Orlando and Atlanta, and that's kind of it. To me, like the start of the season has pushed Detroit into the top and then to that top 4, and Atlanta has been very discouraging for me personally. I'm comfortable saying like I would fear more Detroit in a playoff setting than Atlanta at this very moment. And it's like Detroit, credit to them. What a night that this was. What a night that this was for the Houston Rockets, by the way, the last game of the night that we have on our docket. They led by 36 points at one point, and they went wire to wire to rout the Celtics 128-101. Here's John Corrales, Locked On Celtics, to recap it for us.
Houston Rockets dominated the Celtics from start to finish. They opened up a 13-point lead after 1. Then in the second quarter, after Josh Minott, quick little flurry, they put this team away. On top of the Rockets just being way too big for the Boston Celtics, they shot 65% from 3 to Boston's 32. That's not going to get the job done. Celtics also fouled a lot because they are so much smaller. The Rockets blocked everything in the paint. They blocked everything at the rim. The Celtics, when they went up to try to do the same thing, caught the Rockets on the wrist, on the forearm. Just not big enough to kind of return the favor. This was probably a schedule loss on top of everything, but let's be honest, the Celtics were probably going to lose this no matter how many days off they had. Just a really, really tough matchup for Boston. They come out of the opening 7-game stretch 3-4, which I consider a success, considering the gauntlet, considering this was 6 games and 9 nights. The schedule eases up, thankfully for the Celtics, with the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, and Orlando twice. So the Celtics at 3-4 have a chance to come out of this opening stretch as a winning team. We'll see how it goes on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
We will indeed see how it goes, and check out John Corrales over at Locked On Celtics for more Celtics coverage. I agree with him. It is encouraging the overall record that they sit with right now. However, the pathway to that record, I'm still skeptical of what their plan is going to be moving forward, because I look at a game like this where John mentions how they are too small to defend Houston, which they 100% are. They're also too small to guard a lot of teams in the NBA, just with their front court rotation or lack thereof. And if you're going to consistently be outshot, which they were tonight, they got a double whammy, being outshot from three and also being too small. That's just, you don't leave yourself any opportunity to win some of these games against these teams you're going to face constantly. I'm thinking of like Cleveland, for example. Like you're going to be way too small to defend Cleveland, way too small to defend New York, way too small to defend, I think, Orlando. We'll see how that matchup ends up going this week. But I'm excited to see what the Celtics direction is, because it could end up being one step back for a massive step forward if their draft lottery odds hit perfectly, or they could just like figure it all out and get to the postseason in this wide open Eastern Conference. Gavin, this was another fun night in the association on Saturday.
Yeah, this was a blast, man. I can't wait to do it again next week. I'll say it again, like the talent in the NBA, the level we're getting on the broadcast now between Peacock, Prime, and ESPN, all of them are doing great jobs. It's just a blast week in and week out.
It's an absolute blast. Go check out Gavin, Schall at Locked On Knicks. Check me out, Locked On Thunder. Until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.